Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this month's episode of Dramatically Successful Public Speaking with our host today, Ariana Newcomer. Ariana is going to be bringing something really special this month to you. She's going to be interviewing one of her colleagues, Elizabeth Bachman, and they're going to be talking about a very popular topic, which I have seen a lot of response to in social media, how to book 5 speaking gigs in 5 weeks. So I'm taking lots of notes. I suggest you do the same. And I'm looking really forward to this conversation. So Ariana, take it away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dramatically Successful Public Speaking, book 5 speaking gigs in 5 weeks. And I'm delighted to bring my friend and colleague, Elizabeth Bachman, to you today. And Elizabeth and I are both opera professionals. I'm a former opera singer, and Elizabeth is still currently an opera director. So we are going to have a great time. First of all, a little bit about me. I specialize in healing the soul's voice to joyfully express its divine purpose. And I teach spiritual entrepreneurs and leaders how to speak with power and confidence from their fully aligned, authentic selves so they can be truly heard and understood, get their message across, and succeed in their heart's work. And Elizabeth, as I mentioned, is an opera director. She's also a speaker, author, and trainer. She's known as the star maker for speakers, and she's passionate about helping people shine on any stage. She uses her 30 years of experience as an international opera director, and she's directed such highly known people as Luciano Pavarotti and Placido Domingo. She works with business professionals, authors, and speakers to find their unique voices, stand in their power, close more sales, and become a star in their field. Elizabeth is fluent in 5 languages, and she's directed over 50 operas around the world. So she has a wealth of tools to help business professionals become star presenters. She's the creator of Taking Your Show on the Road, How to Get Booked as a Speaker, the ultimate guide for getting more speaking gigs, and the acclaimed virtual mastermind series, Speak for Success. She's a sought-after speaker. She's spoken to the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, eWomen Network, Women in Consulting, the Sacramento Speakers Association, numerous radio shows and telesummits. And she also does this wonderful thing, and she has just returned from Austria, where she's the founder and artistic director of the Tyrolean Opera Program, which is a 2 times a year opera training program in the Austrian Alps. So whether you want to jazz up your act, punch up your pitch, or polish your presentations, Elizabeth helps you stop procrastinating, get past your blocks, and take your show on the road. So Elizabeth, welcome. I'm so delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you, Ariana, and it's such a treat to be able to talk to a fellow opera geek. It's like, oh, good, I promise we're not going to talk about opera the whole time, but it's really fun to be able to trade tips and secrets. And you and I address the same issue, but from very different aspects. So it's fun to see the parts that you do and the parts that I do and how it all works together. So I'm really excited.
Yeah. So we're bringing this perspective both from the performer's aspect, which is me, and then from the one looking on and directing on stage and assisting the performers to do the best that they can do. So it's a wonderful blend of having both of these perspectives. So we're just delighted to be with you today talking about speaking and how to get speaking gigs. Now, you all know, as entrepreneurs, one of the best ways that you can help build your business is by getting out on stage and speaking. And a lot of people have a really hard time with this. There is a statistic out there that says people are more afraid of speaking in public than they are of dying. I don't know if that's actually true, but I know that there are very many people who get kind of paralyzed by this idea of having to get up in front of people and speak. So we want you to know, in the first instance, is people are really looking to connect with you. And you don't have to be a professional. You don't have to do the kind of rehearsal and polishing that we do to do an opera to be successful speaking on stage. I like to imagine that there's sort of a wheel of expression. So if you imagine that opera singers and, say, Shakespearean actors use this much of their ability to express with their voices, and most of us as speakers and ordinary people going about our days, I think we use only about this much of the expressive capability of our voice. And this is a miraculous instrument, really. If you think about all of the sounds that this little thing can produce, and actually it's not just the larynx that produces the sound. I have a whole thing I teach about how your body is your instrument, which is really true. But it's amazing what your voice can do. So if you do just a little bit, you can get just this much more expression into your voice, then you are going to blow up your capability to connect with your audience, to inspire your listeners, to make sales from the stage, and to get speaking gigs, because the more expressive and inspiring you are as a speaker, the more people want to hire you, potentially hire you, or get you on their stage to inspire their audiences. So, Elizabeth, give us a little more introduction to exactly what you are up to right now.
Well, what I do is I help people create a signature speech. And I love what you were just saying about the expression and how to use a little bit more of what we already have, what we're already gifted with. My specialty is to help you create the signature speech that brings you the clients you want and the money you deserve. And not incidentally, it makes you a star in your field, because speaking is a great way to establish your expertise, and the more you are perceived as an expert, the more you're going to be asked to speak. So it makes sense to have a signature speech. And what I mean by a signature speech is the sort of speech that you would do to a networking event, or where you would do, say, 20 to 30 minutes. Now, you could make it an hour-long speech just by adding some more details, but the fundamental structure is the same. And the great thing about having that is that once you have put in the time and effort to create it once, you can do it all over the place, over and over and over again. And that, if you do it right, your ideal clients will come running up to you begging to work with you. And it's like a license to print money. I love it.
Exactly. And I want to just express again that it's so important for you all to realize that we aren't talking about you becoming Oprah Winfrey or one of the big speakers. It's really about being authentic. It's about speaking authentically from who you are and really allowing yourself to be heard in your voice and to be seen on the stage and to come through in the copy that you write for your signature talk, because your ideal clients aren't looking for someone like you. They're looking for you. And if you don't fully express who you are, if you don't let us hear who you really are through your voice, how are they going to know? How are they going to make that connection with you? So that crafting the signature talk in a way that really illuminates who you are and your special gifts and your uniqueness is exactly what you want, because that allows people to really connect with you. And I know that can feel really vulnerable, and some people have a very hard time because you've been used to hiding out. And there are things that I hear. Some of the coaches that I know, for instance, have had degrees in psychology, or they were therapists, or they were marriage and family counselors. And they developed what I call therapy voice, which is a voice that's very calm and soothing. And it's a wonderful voice to have in a one-on-one therapy session. But this kind of voice, when it becomes a habit, is not going to serve you when you're on stage trying to tell your audience about how exciting and wonderful you would be to work with. Didn't I just put you to sleep?
Yeah. Actually, I have a story about that. If I could just tell you a little bit about where I come from and how I discovered all of this, if I may. I started like you. I was a stage-struck kid, and I first started out in theater, and then I discovered opera. And the thing that Ariana, you know, and the rest of you know, is that opera, especially directing opera, it's more complicated and it's more glorious. Because what I found when I got to opera, I said, oh, this is where I need to be, because it has storytelling and music and theater and languages and grandeur and passion, and it's all about the truth of who you are. So I loved it. I traveled the world. I still do travel the world, and I actually saw Placido Domingo last month at the Salzburg Festival. It was great to touch base with him. I hadn't seen him in a while, and then when I learned about speaking, though, was when I got my dream, which was to found a program of my own. And I was invited to bring young singers to Austria and to create the Tyrolean opera program. And people often say, so what does a story about creating an opera program have to do with why am I telling this on a presentation about public speaking? Well, to start the program, I had to raise $100,000. Oh my God. And to raise $100,000, I had to give speeches. And I realized at first, my first few speeches, I was terrified, and I was terrible, because I had been speaking for years on other people's behalf. And when it came time to speak on my own behalf and ask for money for me, for my dream, I choked. And that's when you were talking about therapy voice and talking like this. It's one of the physical things that happens when people get nervous is their throat dries up, and you sort of stop breathing, and you got to get sort of talking, your throat get all checked up, and you're talking like this. And for me, I forget to breathe, and so I'm talking up like this. So there I would be. I'd be talking to a group of potential donors, and I would tell them about making music in the Alps and changing the lives of these young singers and how wonderful it was going to be. And then I got to the point where I'd say, so I'd really like it if you could write a check, because, like the balance in the bank account is pretty terrible. And I knew that in front of my eyes were glazed, because all I could see was the red ink on the balance sheet. And I could see their faces fall, and I could see the light go out of their eyes. And then they would say thank you, and they would leave with their credit cards still in their pockets. Oh my God. So, and what saved me actually was coaching. A friend of mine who's a speaker coach came to one of my presentations, and she called me up the next day, and she said, do you know that when you start to ask for the money, your face goes all gray and your shoulders come up around your ears? Well, no wonder nobody was donating. And so even though I didn't have the money in the account to hire her, I realized that my determination to help these young people become better presenters was more important than worrying about the money. And so I found the money and worked with that coach, and the better I got, the more the money came in, and the Tyrolean Opera program became a reality. And then I got the real payoff, which was at the end of the first season, one of the singers threw her arms around me and she said, thank you, you have changed my life. And that blew me away. And I realized that's what I'm really about. it's about helping people become greater than what they ever dreamed they could be. It's just that I do it through presentation skills, whether you're speakers or singers. And so that really anchored me into my purpose. And what I was going to say about that is, when you're scared, it is the physical thing that happens when you get nervous, and it's probably some sort of animal response, so like fight or flight, and you get tense. May I give you a tip that I use for a stage fright?
Oh, this is fabulous. Yes, let's do some tips. Perfect.
So one of the tips I like to use is, if you think about when you're nervous and you're in front of a group, usually the voices in your head are saying, oh, they're going to think she's stupid, or they're going to think I'm going to forget my words, and then they're going to think I'm dumb, or they don't really want what I have to give, it's things like that. And it's all our own gremlins. It's like the choir that chants. My friend Karen Wells calls it the choir, because I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of voices. It's not just one, it's a whole bunch of voices that tell me all the reasons why it's not going to work. And then you're not communicating, because if you're so stuck in your own head, you're not paying attention to the people who are in front of you. So what I like to do, I try to make it about them. And the metaphor that works for me is to imagine that they're guests at a party, and that the service I'm offering or the product I'm offering is like a fabulous dish that I've baked, or a cake, or some incredible dessert. And if you think about, somebody arrives with this amazing dessert and everybody's eyes light up and they go, oh, wow, cool, everybody wants some. So you're going to believe in what you do. I only work with people who truly believe in what they do and have something important to say. So if you believe in what you do, then the offer you're going to make, your sales offer, is a gift. So I like to think of them as guests at my party. And before I walk out in front of them, I think to myself, welcome to my party. I can look at them and I think, my party, my space, and I'm in control. And then what I am offering them is like giving them a cake. And that way, I'm already comfortable with them, because I already love them, because I've invited them to my party. And that way we can play, and I know that what I'm going to give them is useful, and it's like some fabulous cake that I've baked.
That's wonderful. And there are also some physical things that you can do to prepare. My number one tip that I always teach people is belly breathing, is breathing into your belly, because this is essential not only for your voice to actually work properly, because voice is all about airflow. The air has to flow over your vocal folds in order for them to make sound. And when we tense up, we can sometimes clench in our solar plexus. Elizabeth was talking about that sort of squeezing in the throat that can happen. But if you're breathing deeply into your belly, and you're feeling that belly expand as you breathe, then your diaphragm is actually going to be moving down, which it does as we inhale, and helps actually calm your nervous system. This is a fact. Anybody who does yoga, you've learned this kind of breathing in yoga, that when you slow your breathing down and you deliberately breathe deeply into your belly, it does calm your nervous system. So this is your great friend for your voice and for your nerves. And then there's also a great tip. There's a beautiful TED Talk out about this by Amy Cuddy about body positioning. If you use what she calls a power pose, it literally changes your brain chemistry. Those neurotransmitters in your brain that either can be promoting the fight or flight system, or that it can help you feel confident and feel like you're powerful and you're about to go out and give your cake to your friends at your party. So one pose is like Wonder Woman. If you're, I may be dating myself, talking about the Wonder Woman show, but the Wonder Woman pose, she has her hands on her hips and her feet planted wide apart. And she's standing ready to go save the world. If you stand in that pose for 2 minutes, it will change your brain chemistry and make you feel more confident and more powerful before you go out to speak.
Great, great. The thing is, with all these wonderful tips, the part that really breaks my heart is when I see great speakers out there who have a lot to say, and yet they're not getting booked. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how you can get 5 gigs in 5 weeks. And
yes, please. I'm sure everybody wants to know this one. I do.
Well, I'll tell you, 5 gigs in 5 weeks is actually the name of a program that I'm launching next month. And I started it to solve a problem. Because I have worked with my VIP clients, and we talk about what do you say, and then the great delivery, and then a system for getting gigs. And what I found is I was giving everybody this system, and they would download it. It's a digital product. They would download it and then never open it. Or if they open it, they would never do the work. So you've got the 5 tools for the 5 key secrets for getting booked, and 5 gigs in 5 weeks is also going to help implement that. So that's why I've developed that. And the 5.
Yeah, that's great, because especially when I first began getting business coaching, I can't tell you how many programs I paid for and then never implemented, especially digital downloadable programs. Oh, this looks good, but implementation, So having a way to actually be supported in implementing what you already know this is going to work, but you aren't doing it. So clearly, we need support in being able to actually get out there and implement this and get on the stage. Now, another thing to recognize is some of that is resistance. Even though you have done the work, you may have your signature talk, and you've worked on how to deliver it well, but there still are those gremlins, those voices, the choir, as Elizabeth's friend calls it, saying, we can't do that, it's too scary. So having the assistance and the support is really, really valuable.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, there's nothing that makes you really show up and do it like having a deadline and having an appointment. So I don't know about you, I don't do anything without a deadline. It's just like there's so many things on my to-do list. It's like, okay, what's the closest deadline? That's what I'm going to work on. So the 5 keys, the 5 secrets are who, you can think of it as who to talk to, where to find them, what to say when you're speaking to a promoter, and why it's important to make this work. And then the 5th one is how to get it done. And I added that 5th one again for the implementation, in order to do the implementation. And the first one really is the why. That is, why does it matter? Because I won't lie and say this is easy. I mean, you do have to put in some time to make this work. The beauty of it is once you've got the system and you set up the system, it will keep going, and it will self-perpetuate. But it's not overnight, but it's not hard either. And that's why I added the why, the how. And the why really is to deal with your resistance. So I'd like to ask our listeners and viewers to close your eyes for a moment and just think about this. And think that You are an expert. And if you truly believe in what you do, it is your right and your privilege, maybe even your responsibility, to help those who need you. And asking for money for what you do, because a lot of people, they're happy at giving away the information, but to ask for the sale, that's where they have trouble. That was my problem. When I couldn't ask for the sale, that's where I got scared. That asking for the sale is actually a gift. It's like your cake. It's the gift that you're giving your listeners, because you're offering them a choice about whether to work with you or not. And for those who recognize that this is going to be the right choice for them, then they'll come up to you and ask to work with you. But so giving it away for free, it cheapens the offer. And if your clients aren't paying for it, they're much less likely to do the work. It's too easy to blow it off if it's free. The other thing to recognize is that promoters and organizers want to present good speakers. I'm a promoter myself, and I'm booking speakers for a monthly breakfast. And I'm always interested in hearing from people who have something valuable to offer. So while you're listening to us with your eyes closed, just imagine some poor organizer who is tearing her hair out saying, oh my God, I've got to book a speaker for next month and I'm behind. What am I going to do? You might be the answer to that problem. So when you're calling up to offer your services and to say you're asking for them to book you, it's not that they're in control and you're begging. It is you are offering them a valuable service that they perhaps were not yet aware of. So they really want you to be wonderful. So take a deep breath and think, I am fabulous. Take a deep breath and then come back to us. And I will urge anybody who is resisting making the phone calls to go back to this recording and listen to this part again. We're at about halfway through, and listen to this again and go through that meditation and keep it with you.
Yes, and I would also like to just add in here that women especially can have a very hard time, what I call voicing our value.
Yeah.
Being able to actually speak from a sense of confidence in the value of not just what we offer, but who we are. And there is a cultural overlay that we need to be aware of as women. And this is unfortunately starting to fracture. There's a lot of stuff in the news now. Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, came out a couple of years ago. All the stuff now coming out and the pushback against domestic violence that's happening. And women coming out and saying that they've been denied opportunities in corporations and in science. That's really starting to come to the fore. But we still have this cultural thing that says women's voices are not as important as men's. Mm-hmm. What women have to say is not as important as what men have to say. And I call these things voice stories. This is a cultural voice story. Another example of a voice story is a client of mine that grew up being told girls should be seen and not heard all the time. So she developed a voice that was very small and little like this, and people always talked over her. And she, when she started being able to use her power voice, as she called it, people stopped talking over her. She got a new job. She found herself taking the lead at work in ways that she'd never done before, and she started setting boundaries with her family members in ways that she never had before. So she came more fully into herself and owned the value of her voice and her right to actually speak up and speak out for her truth. So you all are valuable. All of your voices are needed. And Elizabeth and I both want you all out there speaking your authentic truth about what's important for you, because we need to change the world, everybody. It's time. And we're all on this mission together. And especially as a messenger of change or a change agent, it can be difficult for those spiritually oriented people to think that they should actually influence someone else with their voice, with their speaking. But we can't create change if you can't influence people with your voice.
Absolutely.
So, this is one reason why voice is so important. Elizabeth and I know this, but a lot of you out there think, oh yeah, I know I need to get speaker training, but I need to do my website first. I need to do my email marketing. I need to write my signature talk and not deliver it. I need to,
yes, right.
I need to have all these other ducks in the row. But we'll tell you, your voice is fundamental. This is actually a foundational piece, so that when you learn to speak with power and confidence from your authentic self, lots of other things fall into place. And if you're a powerful speaker, you might not even need a website to get clients, because people will hear you, as Elizabeth was saying, and they will want to work with you because they connect and they say, oh yes, this is the person I'm called to. But only if you're speaking fully, authentically from your true self.
Absolutely, and that's where Ariana and I both work with people about how to get out there. I mean, the thing about speaking is people will work with someone they trust. And if you can get out there and show us who you are authentically and with the right language and the right script. So I'm a word geek, so getting the words right matters to me. Yeah. But you don't necessarily. But what's important is that people will get a sense of you in a much more powerful way than they do from a website or a flyer or even a teleseminar. So even starting with teleseminar is a great place to start. So the other thing is to get started booking speeches, because most people are booked 2 or 3 months in advance. And I know the program that I'm booking for, I'm with the National Association of Women Business Owners, and called NABO, and we're booked for the next 6 months. So when somebody comes up to me, and people call me all the time, and they say, because I'm a promoter now, so they call me up and they say, oh, I want to speak to your group. And I say, well, let's see, August of 2015. It's usually not that far in advance. It's just I like to be prepared. But the key is to start the process now, because it takes a while. And that's what we're going to do in the 5 gigs in 5 weeks program. The other keys on how to get booked are the next one after you've done why is who to talk to. So you have to make sure you know who your ideal clients are, and narrow it down as best you can. One of the best examples I found is a woman who helps, if someone who is helping somebody go through transition, it's so much easier, instead of just saying I help women in transition, to say I help women who have been through a divorce and are ready to move on and reclaim their power, because that's when they're going to be ready to listen. So if you say that, that's a much easier way for people to figure out how to refer you. So we do this, and there's a whole exercise I have in the program that I won't go into now for time period, for time's sake. And the next question is where to find them. And one of the place I would start first is start with your current clients. Find out what networking groups they belong to. Where do they go where they hear speakers? And just do a survey. Ask your clients. And you say, please look at your calendar and tell me what groups you belong to, and do they have speakers? And then if so, would you introduce me? And then another great place to speak is, how would you find referral partners? For instance, acupuncturists and chiropractors often refer back and forth. You can refer, a chiropractor would refer to an acupuncturist, and vice versa. So if you are the acupuncturist, find out where the chiropractors groups meet. Find groups of chiropractors at their professional associations and offer your services. Talk to them about what you do and how it can enhance their business. And that's a win for everybody, because it's a win for you, because a referral partner is actually more valuable to you than somebody who's than a client, because that's someone you can get lots of clients from. And it's for the person who's referring you, it's a win for them, because then they get great brownie points for good karma for sending their people to somebody marvelous. And it's a win for the patient. And it works with I often work with marketing coaches, because I do very specifically the speaking part of marketing. So marketing coaches who do all over marketing training are great referral partners for me, because then they can give me the speaking part while they're working about online marketing and other things. Mm-hmm. And the best place of all to find speaking gigs is from other speakers. And for that, you need to go to networking events, befriend the speakers. We'll talk a lot more about that at the 5 in 5 program. And then make sure that, and it's best if you can be a speaker too, if you can go to multi-speaker events. If you're one of the speakers, then you have great credibility, and then you can talk to the other speakers and just trade notes, sort of backstage in the green room. That's the best place. But in order to do that, you have to be out there speaking so that you have the credibility that someone is willing to refer you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Great. So is that all the 5 of your 5 things?
Nope, we've got more. Number 4 is what to say. And that is, what is your script going to be when you call somebody up? And before you do that, you have to make sure that you have a bio and a good photograph, good headshot, and what we call a speaker sheet or a one sheet. So before you start making the calls, you have to make sure that you have all your materials ready and have them in a file on your computer. I call it the speaker. I have the speaker tools file. And so that if somebody says, yes, I want to book you, you could say, great, as soon as I hang up, I'm going to send you this information, and it's ready to go. And we will be working about speaker sheets. It's also called a one sheet. That's a description of your talk that has a description of who you are and what you talk about. It's also got a short version of your bio, and it's got a photograph. And most importantly, it has your contact information. I had a client named Carol who, she worked with a graphic artist, and she spent a whole lot of money getting this wonderful speaker sheet, and then she mailed it out in colored envelopes, and she spent extra money to get color copies. And it wasn't until after she'd sent it that she realized that in the course of editing it, the field where her contact information was did not show up. And she hadn't seen it because she was too close, and the graphic artist hadn't noticed it because the graphic artist was, you're too close to it. So make sure you have somebody, be sure you have somebody who's going to proofread it for you. That's very important. And then the script, what you want to do is be curious. You'll call them up, and you can ask them. I have a great opening line, which you can find from the digital product, my digital product. But you want to call them up and find out what they need. Rather than calling up and saying, oh, I'm a speaker and I do this, 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 and this, call up and say, I've heard about your organization. What are you looking for speakers? And keep asking questions, because only by finding out what they need will you be able to make the correct suggestion. And there's, again, a lot more to that. Be curious, find out, and it's also from your point of view, if they're people who are never going to use your service, it's a total waste of time for you to go and speak to them. I got hired to travel down, it was an hour away, to a meeting of DJs. And I was talking to DJs about presentations and so forth, and it wasn't my normal group. And, they were pleasant, they learned some stuff, I learned some stuff, but it didn't get me any clients. And that was 4 hours out of my day that I could have been using at a place where my clients actually were.
Right, so that's a really useful thing, so that you can start screening and figuring out what are the places where your ideal clients are likely to be hanging out, and you can cross off the places where your ideal clients are not likely to be. So as Elizabeth said, you're not going to be wasting your time.
Exactly.
I just want to mention, for those of you watching on my website, on ariananewcomer.com, there is a button. If you already know that you want to apply for Elizabeth's 5 Gigs in 5 Weeks program, there is a button that you can click to go to her webpage and fill out an application to have a conversation. And she is limiting the number of people she can take so that people get individual attention, so that people get the support that they need. So it is by application only, and you have a conversation with Elizabeth to find out if it's the right fit for you. So that button is there if you are on the page. And if you are on Google Plus watching us live, Elizabeth, why don't you give them the URL?
Well, actually, if you're looking at me, you see it's right under my name on the screen here. It's elizabethbachman.com/5-in-5. But I think I probably need to tell you a little bit more about this program then, so that people have an idea of what it's about. And
absolutely. But I promise what I would love to do, just jump in for a second, and let's just give another couple of tips before you jump into that. And
the best tip I have is how to get it done. But I'd like to tell you about the program first, and then I promise I'll tell you how to make it happen and how to implement it. That's the 5th one. We've talked about why, who, what, and where, but the how is the key that makes it all happen. Mm-hmm. So all these things that we've talked about today, and the how, which I will get to, I promise, are in 5 Gigs in 5 Weeks, which is the Get More Speaking Gigs Bootcamp. And it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays, October 14th to November 13th. And this program is for you if you're confused about where to find good places to speak, if you're nervous about cold calling or being pushy when you're looking for a place to speak, or if you're unsure about what to say and how to present yourself. And it's for you if you're frustrated when you see other people getting gigs and you say, how do they do that? So we talked today about why it's important why it's worth taking the time to make it work, because there are people out there who need you. So it is worth it. They need you, and they're not going to find you unless you're out there speaking. The who to talk to, so you make sure that you're going to places where your ideal clients are. Where to find them? You'd find this from your clients, from your friends, from referral networks, and the best of all is from other speakers. But there's a lot more detail to that, which we will go into in 5 Gigs in 5 Weeks. And then what to say when booking a gig. There's a full script in the program. If you're talking to associations and networking groups, or if you're talking to corporations, if you're got to have a service or a business that would be useful for corporate, then they often have lunch and learn talks or brown bag lunches. And there's a slightly different script for that. You'll also get the best opening line, and you'll learn how to get past no. So what happens if somebody says, no, I don't think we need you? The best part of all is you get the fabulous friend system. And this is the how, and I'll be telling you about that in a moment. But it is my trademark system for how to get it done. You'll also get bonus material on how to get asked back. This is an investment that will get you a full calendar for speaking. And normally a program like this would be $5,000 and up. And it's worth it, because once you've got this system, you can use it again and again. Personally, I've invested over $50,000 for my own education learning these things, and even just for developing the Star Maker for speakers. And that was just for adding new vocabulary to what I was already doing. So 5 gigs in 5 weeks, if you were to do it with me one-on-one, it would cost you $3,000. However, I love my work, and for the first time I'm doing this as a group program. And that way I can afford to reduce the price and make it a bit more affordable. So I'm only asking for an investment of $750. That's 5 weeks, 2 calls a week. The Tuesday calls will be classes and Q&A and getting things prepared. The Thursday calls will be, I hope that you'll call up, report where you are, and then hang up, because then you're going to pick up the phone and make phone calls and then call back at the end of the time and report on how it went and how it worked. And I'll also make myself available if people are having challenges, if they're not ready to make calls. And that's actually why I am asking for people to apply for this, because I need to make sure that I have people that I know where you are in your speaking career and what's going to be the right thing for you. So this is going to be very personalized, a lot of my personal time. My client Sandy, she sort of knew this in person, in theory, but she wasn't doing any of this system. And so we worked together. She got the system, she invested in the system and worked through it. She found herself an accountability partner, and the more she tried, the more she got speaking gigs, and now she's speaking several times a month, and she's on track to make her first 6-figure year. I'm so proud of her. I'm really happy for that. You will also get 31 questions to ask before saying yes to a speaking gig. You'll get how to create a fabulous speaker sheet, so we'll make sure that you have the materials. You get a packing list for a speaking gig so that you don't show up and you've forgotten your business cards, or worse, your PowerPoint. And you'll get the speaker gig, the call tracking list for a speaker gig, so you're tracking who you've talked to and what did they say. And I am so confident that this is going to exceed your expectations, that if you are part of the program and if you do the work and you are not getting speaking gigs, I will refund your money, because I know this works. It's just a matter of doing it. And the best part of all is, because of listening to Ariana's things and because Ariana's a friend of mine, I'm going to give you a deal. When we talk about how to do it, it's the fabulous friend system. And the point is to have an accountability buddy. And so if you can find an accountability buddy, I will give you a discount. So instead of $750 per person, it's $497 each. So I'm going to take 1/3 off the price. I'm taking $250 off the price for anybody who comes and says they met me through Ariana, or if they come and say, I have an accountability partner, we're applying as a team. And there again, this is why I want to have a conversation with each person.
And how fabulous. And at that price, who is not going to make their money back on this investment? I mean, practically you get one client out of this and you're going to make back your investment on this. I would like to point out this is an incredible offer that you're making, Elizabeth. It's fabulous.
Thank you. And, I have to tell you that my friend Emily, when she did her very first speaking gig, she was in a crowded restaurant, but she was speaking to her ideal clients. She did a half-hour speech, and she walked away with $8,000. So $750 is nothing. And if you know it through Ariana, you get it for $497, even better.
Right.
So are you ready for the how? The how? Yep. Shall I tell you how?
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this because when I figured out this system, this is one that I developed, and when I developed this system, it all clicked into place. I call it the Fabulous Friends system. And what it is that you partner up with somebody who will be your accountability buddy, and for 1 hour a week will be your booking agent. So what you do is you check in with each other at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of your call, rather. Say it's going to be Thursdays at 10:30. You check in, you say, is everything cool? Anything else we need to know? And then you hang up and you call on each other's behalf. And that way, you can rave about the other person. I mean, it's hard to rave about yourself. It's kind of like how it's always easier to do the dishes at someone else's house. You call that, and then at the end of the time, 90 minutes or an hour, you call back and you report and you say, this is what we did, this is where we are, and so forth. So that gives you the accountability, and it allows you to call and rave about somebody else, and at the same time, they're calling and raving about you. It makes it so much easier. It takes away the resistance. Now, the key to this is to find a partner. If you can find a partner that you like. You find a partner that you like, whose work you can rave about, and it's got to be someone who's not doing the same thing you're doing. So you and I would probably not be calling on each other's behalf because we're too close what we're doing.
Right.
But say Rodney, who's hosting this webinar, Rodney and I could do it, and so for 1 hour a week, he calls up and he says, oh my God, you have to know about Elizabeth Bachman, she's the best speaker ever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would be calling to say, Rodney Washington, you've got to have him come. He does this, 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 and this. And that's so much easier, and it makes it so much more fun. This is why I really urge people to join with a partner. Now, if you don't have a partner, you can still join. It's not the end of the world. I will find partners for everybody, and I will assign people. So there are some people who are coming solo and who are paying the $750 price. And I will give them, I will find partners for them. But it's better if it's somebody that you know and like rather than somebody that I assign.
And I'd also like to remind people that you are getting assistance on crafting that talk so that it will be really compelling and will really be representing you in a wonderful way. So don't forget, you are going to be getting that assistance before you actually get out on stage. So you will have that talk crafted in a compelling way.
Yes. So this is a big part of what I do. And people don't have to speak. It's not the end of the world. You can have an only online program, but if you really believe in what you do, and if you have an important message, then you are going to reach people in a much more direct and powerful way by speaking. It is the best way for people to know who you are and to really find out whether they click with you. So that's why I'm offering this, and that's why Ariana and I do what we do,
Yeah.
because that's what, and you can't do that unless you can get up and get the gigs. So you can be the best speaker in the world, but if you have no place to give that speech, it doesn't help. So once
Right.
again, if you're interested in signing up for 5 gigs in 5 weeks and the program and the bonuses, please go to elizabethbachman.com/5-in-5
Or
and
if you're
apply for
watching on my webpage, there's a button. You can click the button and go put in your application. Yeah. Then I also want to reflect again to everybody that this can sound like it's really serious and really a lot of work, and it's actually going to be fun.
Yes.
It's really when you actually do get this stuff moving and going, and you're working with a partner the way Elizabeth has this designed, this is going to be fun. So take that into account. You can actually do something that's really going to make a difference for your business, and you can have fun while you're doing it.
Right, right. And there's such a relief that comes from getting something done that's been hanging over your head, that's saying, yeah, I know I've got to do it, and really getting into action and moving ahead and seeing results. So I'm really, I know it works. I've seen it work with individuals. This is the first time I'm doing it as a group, and and we're all going to share our tips about good places to speak too. So that's also good.
Right.
And that's going to be a big thing. I think I'm really looking forward to it. It starts October 14th and runs until November 13th. And I'll tell you, we're doing it at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the Thursdays at 10:30 in the morning, because for part of that time, I'm going to be in Austria. So I'm going to be doing these calls from my room in the Alps. And so 9 hours, not doing it in the evening, because that's 2 o'clock in the morning, Austrian time.
That's so great. Now, I also want to reflect for people, one of the differences in between what Elizabeth does and what I do is that I have actual voice technique pieces that I teach. So
absolutely,
you have a special difficulty with your voice. So if you have a voice that's like this, that's really irritating for people, I can teach you how to soften that voice quality. Or if you have that voice that just doesn't project at all. I recently started working with a woman who has a book coming out, and she said people are always telling me they can't hear me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be teaching her how to project her voice. And also, there are things like I mentioned, the woman who grew up with girls should be seen and not heard. And there are lots of other voice stories that affect our ability to really present ourselves authentically through our voice. And so I work with releasing and healing those old stories. And some of those other stories are things like anger was never expressed in our home, or one of my parents was so volatile that we all walked on eggshells all the time. So I developed this very careful way of speaking. And then there's another whole category of people who were actually abused, either sexually abused or physically abused, and they were silenced by their abuser, and they then silenced themselves. So that story is, it's not safe to speak out and speak up, or something really bad is going to happen to me. So I help people work with those issues and heal their soul's voice so that you can really allow yourself to fully express yourself. I just saw recently a welcome video for a new membership site that someone I had been following on Facebook had just started, and I love her writing. She's very inspirational, very soulful and spiritual, and I clicked on her video and I thought, great, I'll look at this. And she's talking like this. Here she is, and she writes like this very powerful, strong person, and she's talking like a tiny little girl. And so So that's another issue. If your voice doesn't match who you are, I can help you with that.
And
So
that's where I would say that Ariana has that training that I have not been through myself. So that's where there are also people who make sure that their voice gets lower and they push it lower, and they actually do damage to their vocal cords.
yes.
So you want to do, if you are working on how you sound as much as what you say, then absolutely if you go to Ariana. If you want to talk about how to be fabulous and how to present yourself with the right words and how to get gigs, then you would go to me, because that's, after all, I've been teaching people to be fabulous on stage for over 30 years, and it is part of what I do. We work together, Ariana and I, and it always depends on what each speaker needs and what they need more. And really, and it's also going to matter on whose energy do you react to. So that you're seeing us live here today.
Yeah, so today we're really focusing on Elizabeth's 5 Gigs in 5 Weeks program. So again, if you're watching on my webpage, you can click the button there, or go to elizabethbachman.com/5-in-5 and schedule your appointment to talk with Elizabeth about this great program and incredible value. And if you are interested in talking with me about healing your soul's voice or bringing your full authentic self into your business, you can go to ariananewcomer.com/apply to schedule a Voice Your Value breakthrough session with me. So we have just so much enjoyed being together and talking with all of you today. And we are a little bit past the hour. And Rodney, would you like to take us out?
I actually have one thing I'd like to say as a quote I'd like to leave you with, if we may.
Great.
So, remember that you are fabulous, and your people deserve all of your fabulousness. And if I may paraphrase Mark Twain said, the difference between, to paraphrase him, the difference between an ordinary speaker and a fabulous one is like the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. So you are fabulous. Go out and be the lightning.
Yes.
So thank you both, Ariana and Elizabeth. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm blown away by what I've learned in this last hour, as I know many of our listeners were able to as well. As both Ariana and Elizabeth both shared with you ways to go deeper with them both if you wish to, and I'm just going to give you the URLs one more time so that you'll have them available for you. If you are watching us on the live event page on ariana.com, you can just click on the button that says 5 Gigs in 5 Weeks application with Elizabeth. It'll take you right to the site, or you can go to elizabethbachman.com/5-in-5. Also, if you'd like to schedule a Voice Your Value breakthrough session with Ariana, you may do so at ariananewcomer.com/apply, APPLY. These are two very powerful ladies, and this has been one of the best hangouts, I think, to date so far. It's been really great information, and I'm excited about this partner program. I think it's really wonderful. So everyone, thank you so much for coming. Again, I encourage you to go deeper with both of them to see how you can take your business to the next level. Remember, we're in the last quarter of 2014, so there's still time to get all of your information in, get your training in, and get going so that you can kick off 2015 really ready, fired up, ready to go, and with a full calendar of speaking gigs. So wouldn't that sound wonderful?
Get yourself set up for a great 2015. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much again, Elizabeth. Thank you so much, Ariana, as always. And we look forward to being with you next month. And we'll have a wonderful new talk, and can't wait to see you till then. So everyone have a wonderful, blessed afternoon, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Bye.